Hello everyone. Today is our 7th discussion as a part of our revision series, and the theme which has been chosen for today's discussion would be 10 important nuances and articles from Parliament. Right? And why have I chosen this particular theme? It's because when you make a analysis of previous year's questions, see what kind of questions makes the polity area difficult, you will find that from the chapter of Parliament there are two types of questions which can be asked, which makes the handling of those questions difficult. One, if the questions are asked from very minute, precise provisions of the Bare Act itself, then the questions from Parliament would become difficult. Otherwise, the reason why the questions from Parliament becomes difficult is if the questions are asked from rules of procedure of Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha. Right? They ask you provisions on ethics committee. That's all not there in the constitution, it's there in the rules of procedure. Whereas then they can ask you specific questions about Article 112, which talks about budgetary provisions. Right? There are some very specific minutes which we tend to normally overlook, or even if you would have read it once, we may not be able to retain it on the day of the exam. So if a question is framed on such specifics, again there is a possibility of us not being able to recollect it and get it right on the day of the exam. So these are the two different ways of how questions from Parliament, though it's an easy chapter, can be made difficult. Right? Otherwise, most aspirants will be able to handle other general kind of questions. Right? If a question is asked, which of the following is true about money bill? 3 options are given. It can only be introduced in Lok Sabha. Rajya Sabha can only suggest amendments and not reject it. Right? And it has to, it cannot be transmitted back by the president for reconsideration again. You know, when such kind of options are given, everybody will get it right. But UPSC won't ask such a simple question. UPSC's question will have one nuance, one specific provision, which is Article 109 mentions about the procedure in respect of money bills, which makes the question difficult. Right? And moreover, when you read it from Lakshmikant, when you read the entire chapter from Lakshmikant, you get a first-hand broad view of what all is there in this particular chapter. But you don't really get an understanding whether these aspects are there in the constitution, or are they supplemented in some laws, or are they a part of rules of procedure. Right? When you read Lakshmikant, you come across a lot of cut motions, adjournment motion, no confidence motion, and all of that. Right? But when you simply read Lakshmikant without looking at the Bare Act, you will not even know whether it's there in the constitution or not. Because, for example, no confidence motion is not even there in the constitution. In constitution, we only have articles from 79 till 123 which pertains to Parliament. In none of these articles you have anything about no confidence motion. But no confidence motion is given in a procedural aspect of Lok Sabha, in rules of procedure of Lok Sabha. Right? But that fine differentiation, you wouldn't be getting it when you read from Lakshmikant. But that's what UPSC tests. Look at this particular question asked in 2022. The question is about the different powers of Supreme Court and High Court to punish for its contempt. Right? Fine, everybody knows about what is civil contempt, criminal contempt, and all of that. What are the punishments that can be given? What means a contempt in the first place? All that is known to most aspirants, whoever reads Lakshmikant. Right? But a specific part, the constitution defines civil contempt and criminal contempt. Right? Unless you would have seen the Bare Act, unless you would have gone through the provisions from 124 till 145, which talks about Supreme Court, right? If you would have gone through most of the provisions, you will not be able to really recollect it on the day of the exam whether this is actually there in the constitution or is it there in a law separately made by the Parliament. Okay, constitution does not differentiate between civil contempt and criminal contempt. It's basically given in Contempt of Courts Act of 1971. Right? So this differentiation can only come either through tests. If such a question is asked in test, you would have made a mistake and then your faculty would have discussed it, bringing it to your attention. So now you are cognizant that okay, this differentiation exists. Otherwise, you should have directly looked at the Bare Act, the original constitution itself, article by article, and then you would have come to this realization that oh yes, so these aspects are not actually there in the constitution, this is there in the constitution. Right? So that's the whole point of today's exercise. So today's exercise is just to give you a direct sense of what actually is there in the Bare Act, in the constitution regarding Parliament alone. Right? I feel UPSC is not going to ask you a random article. Article 325 talks about tribunals. That's not going to be asked. Right? Random articles UPSC wouldn't be focusing, but UPSC I think will be focusing upon at least the articles within the range of fundamental rights, within directive principles, within union, executive, legislature and judiciary. Right? Just these 5 areas. So article 12 to 35 on fundamental rights, you should actually have mentally a good clarity on what is there in each article from 12 to 35. Similarly, in directive principles, right, from 36 till 51, what is there in it, and then articles on union executive, on the president alone, starting from 52 till 78, whatever is there in the union executive, just have an idea about it, right? I'm only asking you to directly refer the Bare Act only for these 5 areas. You don't have to go and read the constitution with respect to all other articles, right? So that's the whole point of today's exercise, and since we cannot take up all these areas in one session, so what we'll do is we'll address Parliament in its entirety. It's because I feel Parliament is an important chapter where it's easily scoreable if you can only be thorough about 3 different things. One is whatever is there in Lakshmikant, have a good idea about it. Second, have a very good idea, precision about each and every article from 79 to 123, whatever is there in every article. Third, with respect to rules of procedure of Lok Sabha, you don't even have to go and look at Rajya Sabha, right? At least the rules of procedure of Lok Sabha. Just these 3 methods of preparation will really prepare you to get all 100% of the questions asked from Parliament correct on the day of your polity exam, right? And especially in 2024, I have brought here only 2 questions, but there were 5 questions asked only from the chapter on Parliament, right? And somebody who can get all these fine specific facts correct will be able to get all the 5 questions right, correct? So I would say that those who were able to get factually correct with respect to the questions from Parliament right would have made it. If you have not got all the questions from Parliament correct, it would have become difficult for you to cross beyond the cutoff, right? Because it's such a easy scoreable area, and those who crack prelims and all the toppers would be very, very thorough with respect to this Parliament area, right? So that's going to be the objective of today's session, and in the next session I'll be taking up the rest of the Parliament. In today's session we'll see the Bare Act related aspects of Parliament. In the following session I'll take up rules of procedure related aspects of Parliament, right? So by that method I hope to make you perfect in your precise awareness about what is there in each and every article of the Constitution. Alright, so let's get into it. So first, what I have done is I have brought some 10 different articles, because it's in these 10 different articles there are certain areas which was able to grab my attention, right? And I hope you were also attentive enough to have seen these kind of areas in these articles. If not, this is an opportunity for you to make use of, get to know about these nuances. Alright, so first, Article 80. Article 80, simple, it just talks about the composition of Rajya Sabha, which I am sure all of you are aware of. It says total in Rajya Sabha, not more than 238 members will be representing the states and union territories, and another not more than 12 members who will be nominated by the president, and they are different eminent experts in different areas, fields, right? All these are known to all of you, right? And what is also known to you is how are these members from states, how are they chosen? They are chosen by proportional representation by single transferable vote. I don't have to explain that to you, you know what it is, right? So this 238 seats, how is it allotted to different states and different union territories? Where is it mentioned? It's mentioned in the 4th schedule of the Constitution. 4th schedule is a list in which how many seats are to be allotted to different states and union territories. You find it mentioned in the 4th schedule. Up to this there is no problem. What if I ask you a question here, that is, the Constitution mentions that the members from union territories to Rajya Sabha will be chosen by proportional representation by single transferable vote. Is this statement a right statement? If a question comes in your exam and it says that the Constitution specifies that the members from union territory shall be chosen to Rajya Sabha by means of single transferable vote method, if this is the statement, the answer is no. The reason is Constitution does not prescribe the methodology of representation from the union territories. It clearly lays down the methodology of representation from the different states, right? It says that the members shall be chosen by proportional representation by single transferable vote of each state. But with respect to union territories, look at clause 5 of Article 80. This is where I want your attention to fall upon. It says that the representatives of union territories in Rajya Sabha shall be chosen in such manner as Parliament may by law prescribe. Okay, so Constitution does not even mandate the single transferable vote method for choosing the representatives from UTs to Rajya Sabha. It leaves it in the hands of a parliamentary law, And what is that parliamentary law? That is Representation of People's Act 1950. Alright. See, we have two RPA, Representation of People's Act 1950, 1951. Both of these are important from the perspective of your mains. In your mains, you have a separate topic called as Salient Features of Representation of People's Act. Right. So, in a separate mains oriented discussion, I will be addressing those aspects. What is the difference between the two acts and all of that. As of now, just keep it in your mind that it is this parliamentary law, which is basically the Representation of People's Act 1950, which talks about the method of how representatives from UTs will be chosen to Rajya Sabha. And when you read the RPA 1950, there is a particular section called as section 27H in RPA 1950, which talks about a method. What does it say? It says that the members from UTs shall be chosen by a electoral college. Right, and this electoral college will use the method of single transferable vote, the proportional representation system. So, what I am trying to say is, tomorrow the parliament can decide from Pondicherry, from Delhi, right, we have to have members to Rajya Sabha. What if parliament tomorrow makes an amendment to this act and it says that no more elections? From Pondicherry and Delhi, the president will choose by nomination. If the parliament were to make a change to RPA, that becomes the system after that. Right. So, constitution does not prescribe any system for how members are to be chosen from union territories. It could be because of elections, it could be because of nomination, because everything lies with respect to what is there in the parliamentary law, and the law for that purpose is RPA 1950. Just keep this aspect in your mind. Alright. So, let us move on. So, the next article 81 is also quite important because there are just so much of nuances in article 81. Let us have a look at it. 81, as you know, talks about the composition of Lok Sabha. It says that not more than 530 members representing the states and not more than 20 members representing the union territories. Right. So, this is what article 81 says. Right. How are these 530 members from different states going to be chosen? They are going to be chosen by direct election. Where is it given? It is given directly here. But when it comes to union territories, it is the same case with that of the preceding article, just like how we discussed in article 80, right? Members from UTs, how are they going to be represented in Rajya Sabha? The method is not given explicitly in the constitution. Similarly, for union territories as well, the constitution says not more than 20 members to represent the union territories chosen in such manner as parliament may by law provide. It means that tomorrow parliament can make a law and it can say that there need not be election. All members to Lok Sabha will be simply nominated by the president. Yes, that can happen. But it cannot happen with respect to states. Because for states, the constitution is very clear that direct elections have to be followed. But when it comes to union territories, the constitution says any method as per the parliamentary law. And has parliament made a law for that purpose? Yes, it has made. We have a separate act called as Union Territories House of People Direct Elections Act of 1965. It is in this particular act, today we have it clearly mentioned that direct elections will be followed. Right. So, understand that this is a nuance. I am sure you also will know that direct elections are followed to Lok Sabha from both states and union territories. But get to know that there is a specificity here that it is not actually given in the constitution. It is not a constitutional mandate that only direct elections should be the methodology to choose representatives to Lok Sabha from the UTs. It is as per the parliamentary law, and today's position as it stands is because of UT House of People Direct Elections Act of 1965. Alright. Now, let me bring to your attention another nuance here. In the preceding article, article 80, we saw that the allocation of seats to Rajya Sabha for different states, union territories, where is it given? It is given in 4th schedule of the constitution. But when it comes to Lok Sabha, the allocation of seats to different states, so 530 is the total seats for all the states put together. How much to Tamil Nadu? How much to Maharashtra? How many seats out of this should go to UP? Is this given in the constitution? No. Right. So, this is given where? Where is it given? It is given in Representation of People's Act 1950. When you see that in the first schedule, there is a table that is there in this act. It is in that table how many number of seats should be given to different states will be mentioned. This is another difference that you should know. Rajya Sabha, the total seats allotted to different states, how much it's given to each and every state is given in the constitution itself in the 4th schedule. But when it comes to Lok Sabha, the distribution of seats to different states is not given in the constitution. It's given in a separate law of the parliament, which is called as the Representation of People's Act 1950. In the 1st schedule it is given, right? So understand, in Article 81, just in one clause itself, there are just so many nuances, right? The nuances, the methodology of election to UTs need not be direct, or it can be direct, will be decided by parliamentary law. Second, allocation of seats to different states is as per Representation of People's Act 1950. All right, fine. So this, I hope, is clear. Let's move on to the other nuances of the same article, right? What is that? So for this, you should actually read Article 81 along with Article 82, right? Because Article 82, the next article, talks about readjustment after each census. So you need to actually understand the two process perfectly together, right? For that, let me draw two diagrams here. So this is India, and this is just the state of Tamil Nadu, right? So the constitution says a total of 530 seats to different states, right? How much should we give to UP? Can we give all 500 seats to UP? And to all the other states in India, we'll just give them 2 seats each. Is that correct? No, it's not correct. Why? Because in Article 81, there is a methodology that is given here. What is that methodology? It says that the ratio of the total seats given to any state, seats that is given to any state, to the total population of that particular state, this ratio should be the same across all the states, right? So this is the principle that is actually given. So that's why, as per this principle, we ensure that if Tamil Nadu has 7 crore population and if UP has 14 crore population, then Tamil Nadu should get at least half the seats that is being allotted to UP, right? So a very rigid, very nice criteria is given so as to ensure equitable representation across the different states in Lok Sabha. Wonderful, it's given there, right? Okay. So in Article 82, what it says is that this population keeps on growing, isn't it? The same population does not remain static without any growth or reduction. Population changes continuously. So that's why we have to make the representation of Lok Sabha as representative as the real population on the ground. Because when we got independence, when this constitution was made, the population of India was what, 550 million? Today it has become 1 billion, right? And when we made our constitution for the first Lok Sabha, the total number of seats, it was 489, which means that today we should have had at least double the number of seats, because more people are born, so more representation for the new born should all be ensured, right? So ideally speaking, we should have actually gone to at least 1000 seats in the present Lok Sabha. But is that the case today? No, it's not. We are stuck at 545. Why? Because we are stuck in 1976. Since then, we have not had any increase in the number of seats. And let me explain to you the nuances behind this. Only then you will be able to understand these two details, these two facts which are mandated in Article 81. So let me just explain to you something about the readjustment process here. Sorry. So again, drawing the map. So constitution says that after every census there shall be a readjustment. Two types of readjustment is mandated in Article 81, right? So Article 81 and 82, two types of readjustments are mandated. Okay, what is this? The first is readjustment of seats allotted to different states, correct? Because let's say after one census, the population in Tamil Nadu remains the same, whereas population UP increases. You have to give more representation for UP, keeping the same representation for Tamil Nadu, right? That is why Constitution says that after every census, go for a readjustment of the total seats that are allocated to each and every state. That's the first principle. And the second principle of readjustment is, let's say for Tamil Nadu we are giving a total of 39 seats, right? And this 39 seats, now what happens is after every census, let's say from 2001 census to 2011 census, in this 10 years of time, let's assume that, so let's divide this Tamil Nadu into 39 constituencies. These are 39 constituencies. So in this 10 years period, now what has happened is, a lot of people from these two areas, let's say they have migrated to Chennai, because these are very dry areas, not much of economic activities there. So people, in order for better life, they have all migrated to Chennai, right? So it means that more people are here in this constituency, whereas less people are here in these two constituencies. So it means that the boundaries of these constituencies should now be changed, right? Because 50% of these two constituencies have now moved to Chennai. So which means that both these constituencies should be made now as one constituency, and Chennai itself should be broken into two constituencies, right? Because Chennai has now more people. So this is the logic here. The first principle of readjustment after every census is revising the number of seats allotted to each and every state. The second principle of readjustment after each and every census is, out of the seats allotted to one particular state, now the boundaries of the constituencies should be erased, it should be revised, right? So the second readjustment is revision of demarcation of the constituencies in any particular state, right? So these are the two changes that should be made after each and every census. This is the constitutional mandate. And how has it been followed? So let's say in 1952 to 57, so this was the first Lok Sabha, right? The first Lok Sabha was formed in 1952. It has a tenure of 5 years. This is first Lok Sabha. So when the first Lok Sabha was formed, its total strength was only 489, right? But in 1951, there was a census. The census operation itself will go on for 1 year or 2 years. So it's in 1953 or 54, we would have had a clear picture about what has been the population increase. Why? Because this 489 that is fixed when the constitution was made. When was the constitution made? From 1946 to 1950, right? In this 4 years, what was the population estimate based on the 1941 census? But from 1941 to 1951, there was an increase in the population. So that is why in the second Lok Sabha, as well as in the third Lok Sabha, which existed from 1957 till 1967, you will find that the total number of seats would have increased to 494. I hope you are able to understand the logic of how revision of the total seats takes place. It's because the first Lok Sabha was formed with an assumption of 489 seats in Lok Sabha. This is based on the previous census, because it is based on the 1941 census. The constitution makers have even decided that number. But in 10 years, population has increased. So that is why from 489, it was made to 494. Right? Probably one seat should be given to UP, one additional seat. One additional seat would have been given to Bihar. Right? A lot of states, wherever there was a population increase, would have become the beneficiaries of these additional 5 seats. Right? And similarly, in 1961, there was a census. So once again, there was a census which showed another increase in population in certain pockets of India, in certain states. So based on that, we are increasing the number of seats in Lok Sabha, right? So that is why the fourth and the fifth Lok Sabha. So fourth Lok Sabha's tenure was from 1967. It went on till 1977. Right? For fourth and fifth Lok Sabha, we will have additional number of seats in Lok Sabha. Right? This 494 would have become 500 plus. if this principle, if this process would have been organically followed till date, automatically after every census there would have been a revision of seats, which means today we should have had double the number of seats than the first Lok Sabha. But it did not happen like that. Why? The additional 5 seats increase, the additional 10 seats increase after every census. It was only going to the certain North Indian states, not all North Indian states. For example, Punjab, the number of seats remained stagnant. There was no increase in the population. Whereas UP, Madhya Pradesh, Bihar, Rajasthan, these states, because the fertility was the population growth was not controlled, so automatically these states, they started becoming more represented in Lok Sabha, as a result of which the southern states got alarmed. If this were to continue, then the southern states' voice collectively in Lok Sabha will become lesser. Correct? And not only that, Indira Gandhi understood that her strong base of support was in South India. She could clearly understand that in North India, opposition to her rule is increasing, right? So that is also another reason why Indira Gandhi had decided that this organic process of increase of seats should not be allowed to continue, right? So that is why in the 42nd Amendment Act, which was passed in the year 1976, this entire process of revision was put on hold, right? So now I have to take you back to Article 81, right? So in Article 81, certain clauses were introduced as a result of 42nd Amendment Act of 1976. So I hope you are able to understand this whole mechanism. The whole mechanism is basically, when the original constitution was made, for Lok Sabha, the total number of seats allotted was only 489 from both states as well as union territories. So after every census, the number should have been increased. But the last census, based on which the number of seats to Lok Sabha was increased, was actually the 1971 census. Since then, other censuses have not resulted in a revision of the total seats in Lok Sabha, right? So as per the 1971 census, we have got some population estimate, right? So based on that population estimate, it was decided that the total number of Lok Sabha seats will be not more than 530 for the states and not more than 20 for the union territories. Okay, and this number was made here, not more than 20, not more than 530. So all these numbers were the result of 42nd Amendment Act of 1976, right? So it is the 42nd Amendment Act of 1976 which brought this number which we follow till date, this total number of seats in Lok Sabha. All right. And another nuance that you have to know here is, I told you there are two types of readjustment. One is the readjustment of total number of seats according to two different states. Second is readjustment of the boundaries of the constituencies within that particular state, right? So this number, allocation of seats between UP, Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, total number of seats, how much it is, this has been frozen from 1976 for a period of 25 years till 2001, and once again they had a review of this position in 2001. It was decided that this number shall remain frozen for another 25 years up to 2026. So if this is being done, states like Tamil Nadu or Karnataka, they have no problem at all, right? It's because based on 1971 census, if the same population estimates is going to decide how many seats is to be allotted to UP, how many seats is to be allotted to Tamil Nadu, then Tamil Nadu doesn't have much to lose. Why? Because in 1971 census, let's say UP only had twice the number of population, and no wonder, as per 1971 census, UP was given 80 seats, Tamil Nadu was given 39 seats. But you take the case today. Today UP has a total population of 20 crores, Tamil Nadu has 7 crores, which means that UP will get 3 times the number of seats as what Tamil Nadu gets, and that's why Tamil Nadu is really worried about, it's scared about, right? So this fear was the reason why in the year 2001, though initially the freeze was supposed to be there for 25 years till 2001, the freeze was extended to another 25 more years, to allay the fears of South Indian states. And how was it done? It's by bringing an amendment to the Constitution. Which Amendment Act? Remember, 84th Amendment Act of the year 2001. This is not very difficult to remember. I'm sure most of you will be able to remember 86th Amendment Act of 2002. Right? It brings in Article 21A, mandating education and all that. So 86 is 2002. So just the year before, 2001, probably it should have been 82, 83, 84, somewhere around that. So that's why the 84th Amendment Act of the year 2001, it fixes the same methodology based on the 1971 census estimates for a further period of another 25 more years. So till 2026, it's the census of 1971 which is going to be followed when it comes to the first category of readjustment. Which Amendment Act mandates that? It's the 84th Amendment Act of 2001. Right? Up to this, I hope we are clear. Now let's look at the second readjustment. This is a readjustment done internally within the states. So Tamil Nadu has no problem at all with this. Karnataka has no problem at all, because that is what ensures fair representation. Right? Because as I told you, people from one part of the state could have migrated to other parts. So you need to revise the boundaries. There we don't have any problem at all. We can do it as frequently as we can. That is why we don't decide, we don't go by 1971 census estimates for internal readjustment of the constituency boundaries. There we go for as close as possible. Right? So that is why when it comes to the second type of readjustment, where the boundaries of each and every constituency is going to be changed, for that we stick to the 2001 census and not as per 1971 census, because in the 30 years a lot of people could have moved within the states in so many different ways. Right? So the 39 seats is frozen for Tamil Nadu. So Tamil Nadu has nothing to be grieved about. But within that state, how are these 39 different constituencies going to be demarcated? You don't have to stick on to an old estimate. So go for the latest one. So that's why when it comes to the second category of readjustment, that is revision of boundaries within that particular state, we base it as per the 2001 census estimates. Right? So that's what I have marked here. Alright. So let me summarize it totally. As per Article 81, which talks about the representation in Lok Sabha, there are certain nuances that are worth observing. First is, the methodology of election from union territories need not be direct. It could be as decided by the parliamentary law, and I have told you already what that law is. Right? So that would be the first nuance. So the first nuance is election from union territories to Lok Sabha. Right? Unlike the states where the constitution itself mandates that it has to be direct election, when it comes to UTs, it could be any way. So we have an act for that purpose, which is Union Territories House of People Direct Elections Act of 1965 for that purpose. And second nuance that you should know is, with respect to allocation of seats to different states and to different UTs, where is it given? Is it given in the Constitution? No, it's given in Representation of Peoples Act of 1950 in the first schedule of that particular act. Okay, whereas when it comes to Rajya Sabha, allocation of different seats to different states and union territories is actually given in the Constitution itself in its fourth schedule. Just remember that point. Okay, two nuances are done. The third nuance is, when it comes to readjustment in terms of allocation of seats to different states after every census, right? It has been frozen based on the 1971 census. Until 2026, we are going to follow the same census numbers of 1971, right? But when it comes to the second readjustment of boundaries of different constituencies within a particular state, so within any particular state, we are basing it on the 2001 census estimates and not 1971. 1971 is very obsolete, it's very old, does not reflect the reality on the ground. So we go by the latest census as possible. Correct? So these are all the different nuances that you should remember with respect to composition of Lok Sabha. Alright, now let's move on to the next article. So the next article actually talks about the duration of both the houses of parliament. Right? So in Article 83 there are two clauses. First clause talks about Rajya Sabha, Second clause talks about Lok Sabha, right? So we all know certain things about the duration of Lok Sabha. The duration of Lok Sabha is normally for a period of 5 years. At the end of 5 years is automatically dissolution. But during times of emergency, the duration of Lok Sabha can also be extended. Now comes the question, who can extend the duration of Lok Sabha? Is it the President? Is it the Prime Minister? Is it the Speaker? The answer is basically it's the Parliament of India. So that aspect should be clear here, right? It's the Parliament which, when emergency is in operation in India, can extend the duration of Lok Sabha. Its tenure can be extended, right? So what you have here is basically an act of Parliament. Just once in the history of independent India has the tenure of Lok Sabha been extended. And when did it happen? It happened during the time of emergency, national emergency that was in operation in 1975 to 77. So during that time, the tenure of the 5th Lok Sabha would have come to its conclusion. By 1976, the tenure was supposed to end, right? But that was a time of emergency, so you cannot go around holding elections during this time. So that's the reason why the tenure of the Lok Sabha was extended by 1 year. And how was it done? By passing an act. It's called as the House of People Extension of Duration Act of 1976. So you can extend the duration by 1 year at a time. Alright, so this is a nuance that you should know, that it's the Parliament which has the power. Parliament by law, it can extend the duration of Lok Sabha by up to 1 year at a time, right? So this is one aspect that you should remember with respect to Lok Sabha. Alright, now coming to Rajya Sabha, what if there is a statement in the upcoming year's exam and it says the constitution mandates the tenure of a member of Rajya Sabha to be 6 years? Is it right or is it wrong? Is it given in the constitution? The answer is no, it's incorrect. Constitution does not talk about the tenure of a member of Rajya Sabha. First of all, the constitution says that Rajya Sabha shall not be subject to dissolution. So that's the reason why you don't have any end of tenure for Rajya Sabha. It's a continuous body. Just that 1/3 of its members, they keep on retiring every 2 years. New members come and another group of 1/3 members retire after 2 years, and the cycle keeps on continuing. Right? So there is no such thing as a maximum tenure for Rajya Sabha. And the constitution does not even talk about a maximum tenure of 6 years for a member. Right? But where is it given? It's all given in an Act of Parliament, RPA 1951. Why? Because look at Article 83 Clause 1. It says the Council of States shall not be dissolved, but as possible 1/3 of the members shall retire every 2 years in accordance with the provisions made in that behalf by Parliament by law. This is the most important word here. So parliamentary law is what governs a lot of aspects regarding the membership of a person in Rajya Sabha. Constitution is very, very skeletal in nature. It's only very broad outlines have been given. What does it say? Constitution simply says Rajya Sabha shall not be dissolved, and 1/3 of the members of Rajya Sabha every 2 years once they shall retire. That's all. Nothing else is given. But today, if we come to this understanding that a member of Rajya Sabha, MP of Rajya Sabha, has a maximum tenure of up to 6 years, where is it given? It's given in RPA, Representation of Peoples Act 1951. See here, in section 154, it's given subject to the provisions and all that. The term of the office of member of Council of States shall be for a period of 6 years. Right? All of these, no, it can be asked as question in your prelims. That's why I say that a very fine distinction and understanding of what is there in the Constitution, what is there in laws, all that with respect to Parliament, President, should all be very, very clear. Right? So these are some of the nuances basically which it makes it worthwhile to know whether they are in Constitution or in other laws. Alright. So the membership, the tenure of a member of Rajya Sabha not given in the Constitution, it is given in RPA 1951. Right? And we all know that, let's say I am a member of Rajya Sabha representing Tamil Nadu in Rajya Sabha. After 2 years, suddenly I die. I pass away. Right? A vacancy is created, and that vacancy is now to be filled. So new person will be elected. Will he continue for 6 years, or will he continue only for the remaining period of 4 years? What is the answer for that? The answer is for the remainder period of time. Where is it given? Is it given in the Constitution? No, it's given in the same Act 1951 RPA. Look at this. Subsection 3 of section 154. What does it say? A member chosen to fill a casual vacancy shall be chosen to serve for the remainder of his predecessor's term of office. Alright. So these are also aspects that are not given in the Constitution. So let's be clear about the duration of the Houses of Parliament. What does the Constitution say? Constitution after all talks about 5 years duration for Lok Sabha and its extension for 1 year when emergency is in operation. How can that be done? By Parliament, by law. Finished. The other aspect is Constitution says Rajya Sabha cannot be dissolved. 1/3 of its members shall retire every 2 years. Right? But the details will be separately made by Parliament by law. That law is what is RPA 1951, which talks about the maximum membership duration of a particular member for a period of 6 years. And if at all he dies, if there is a vacancy in the middle of his tenure, the new member who occupies the same post shall only continue for the remainder period of the term. All that given in RPA 1951. Okay, we move on. Next, article 85, there is something peculiar about it. I'll tell you what it is. Before that, I'll ask you a question. What if there is a question in your exam which tests you, which says that there is a statement which says the Speaker has the power to summon the session of Lok Sabha? Right? Will the answer be correct? Can the Speaker do that? The answer lies in Article 85. Article 85 is very clear. It says the power of summoning, proroguing, dissolving Lok Sabha, because Rajya Sabha cannot be dissolved, only Lok Sabha can be dissolved. Whereas summoning a house or both the houses or either of the houses to sit for session, or at the end of a session to prorogue the session of the house or the houses, correct? Summoning both Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, proroguing both Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, and dissolving Lok Sabha, all these are powers exclusively only in the hands of the President. Right? This is something that you should remember. The nuances here is, we will all know that only President can dissolve Lok Sabha. Right? But when it comes to prorogation, there is a possibility that you would have known it when you would have read Lakshmikant. You would have read that one Speaker will adjourn the House, whereas President will prorogue the House. But when it comes to summoning, this could be tricky. You may all wonder that Speaker, being the presiding officer, has the power to call the House for session. No, it's the sole power of President alone. Okay. And another interesting aspect here is a very similar provision can also be found in the Government of India Act of 1935. Right? Even in Government of India Act 1935, it's the Governor General of India, the Viceroy of India, who was given the power to summon, prorogue, as well as dissolving the House. Right? And today in the Constitution, in Article 85, it says that mandatory there should be 2 sessions in a year. Correct? I mean, how does the Constitution ensure that? By ensuring that the gap between 2 sessions shall not be more than a period of 6 months, which means that definitely there will be 2 sessions in a year. Similar provision also exists in Government of India Act 1935. It says that at least once in every year, right? And 12 months shall not be the gap between one session and the other session. So it means that similar provisions which mandates that the Governor General shall convene a session of the House was there even in Government of India Act 1935. Right? It was like a mandate given on the Governor General, because otherwise the Governor General will ensure that there will not be any session at all. Because all these things have happened in England in its constitutional history. There have been occasions where the King has never summoned a session of Parliament at all. Right? It's so as to avoid all those kind of mishaps in India. That's why both in Government of India Act 1935 as well as in our present Constitution under Article 85, there is a clear mandate that even if the President desires not to call a session of Parliament, he cannot. He has to mandatorily summon a session of Parliament with a gap of 6 months between 2 sessions. Right? So these are some nuances that you can understand here. And why am I bringing the Government of India Act 1935 and I'm linking it with this particular section? It's because UPSC is now exhausted asking all the easy aspects of Government of India Act 1990, 1935. All those days are over. When was diarchy introduced for the first time? UPSC is exhausted asking those easy questions. That is why in the last prelims there was a very difficult question asked, a tricky question, where defense and external affairs was placed in the control of the Federal Legislature as per the Government of India Act 1935, and most of the aspirants went for it saying it's right. But it was not in the hands of the Federal Legislature, it was in the hands of the Governor General's discretionary powers. So which means that UPSC is getting into some specifics that normally we don't really give attention to. Right? Similarly, next year there could be a question like that. There can be a question which says that the Governor General of India was given a mandate to summon a session once in every 12 months. Right? So those kind of specifics, when UPSC explores, then you will wake up to the reality. You will think that, oh my, okay, next year onwards I'll start knowing all these aspects. No. The best way to be prepared for UPSC examination is to be proactive and not react to UPSC. Be proactive. Take some cues out of the direction in which UPSC is going and prepare as much as possible on similar lines. Right. So this is all about 84 and 85. Now let's look into the next article, which talks about vacancy that arises. There are some nuances here as well. Let's have a look at what they are. So the next article which we will be taking up for discussion would be the article which talks about vacancy that arises in Parliament. Right. So it's an interesting article which has a lot of nuances to it. Let's try to understand it one after the other. Right. Article 101. It talks about the various grounds on which a vacancy arises. Right. So as per 101, vacancy arises because of disqualifications. What are the different types of disqualifications? We will see that later, which is the very next article. Article 102 talks about the different grounds on which a person who is already a MP of Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha can be disqualified. We will come to that, what it is. The second ground on which vacancy arises is because of what can be called as double membership. This is clearly given in Article 101 itself. We will have a good discussion on what it is. The other grounds on which vacancy arises is because of voluntarily resignation. A member who doesn't want to continue as a MP resigns, or if not, because of prolonged absence. If he is continuously absent for a period of more than 60 days, right? It's given in Article 101 itself. If for a period of 60 days, a member of either House of the Parliament without permission is continuously absent, that post is considered to have become vacant. Right? So that's all. It's just these three grounds on which a vacancy arises. Disqualifications will be the next topic which we'll be discussing in detail. But as of now, let me just discuss with you about double membership, because there are just so much of fine nuances which are there in this, which you have to clearly remember. Right? So let's take this up for discussion. Article 101 provides for two contexts in which double membership arises. Right? What are the two contexts? One is in terms of double membership in Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha within Parliament itself. That is first context. The second context arises when a person occupies membership in Parliament as well as in State Legislature. Right? So there are two different contexts provided in 101. Clause 1 of Article 101 talks about double membership within Parliament itself. Let's say I am a sitting member of Lok Sabha as of I contest election to Rajya Sabha. I now become a member of Rajya Sabha. Right? Or the reverse. I am a member of Parliament of Rajya Sabha. Now I contest elections. Now I become elected to Lok Sabha. Right? In either of this case, what happens is the earlier position becomes vacant, which is very logical. Why would I want to contest elections already being a member of Parliament? Maybe I want to be the member of the new house, right, for which I am trying to contest elections. So automatically the membership of the old house, where I am already a member, becomes vacant. Right? What if as of now, presently, I am neither a member of Lok Sabha nor Rajya Sabha, but let's say I am contesting elections to both Lok Sabha as well as Rajya Sabha at the same time, and as luck would have it, let's say I get elected to both Lok Sabha as well as Rajya Sabha. If that is the case, I have to give it in writing to both to the speaker or the chairman which seat I would like to continue. Right? If I do not write in letter, give it in writing, in that case both my elections, my membership in Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, both of that will be declared as vacant. Alright. So understand, in terms of double membership, in the first context, when the first context is just about my membership in Parliament itself, right? If that is the case, if I am already a sitting member of one house and I contest elections to the other house, in that case, if I happen to win the elections, in that case my old membership of the previous house will be declared to be vacant. That's a simple logic. But if in case I am not a member of either house, and if I contest elections simultaneously to both the houses, and if I win elections in both the houses, then I have to express my choice of which house membership would I like to retain. If not, both the membership will become vacant, right? So where is this given? Is it given in Article 101? No. That's the nuance that I want you to focus on. It says that Parliament by law shall make provisions regarding this double membership, right? And has Parliament made a law for that purpose? Yes, it has made, which is called as the Representation of People's Act 1951. As you can see, RPA 1951 is a very broad law regarding elections, right? It has so many different sections, so many provisions dealing with so many different aspects of elections. That's a topic for a different discussion, right? So you can understand this, that when it comes to double membership, Constitution does not get into all the details, right? It leaves it to a law of Parliament to go into all these details. As you can see here, section 69 and section 70 of RPA 1951 is what actually talks about double membership in Parliament, whatever I have explained to you right now, right? Okay, all said and done. This is first context. Now coming to the second context. The second context is, what about double membership in Parliament and State Legislature, right? In that case, what happens? So let's say I have contested elections, and after contesting elections, let's say I have been elected to both Parliament. It could be either Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha, any of the houses. And in State Legislature, let's say State Legislative Assembly or Legislative Council, any of the houses, right? Let's say I have been elected to Lok Sabha and to State Legislative Assembly. In that case, what will happen to my candidature? So within 14 days, if this kind of an election has taken place, right, within 14 days of my double membership, I should express my choice. Where would I want to continue? If not, what will happen? If not, a preference is given for the State Legislature, which means my membership of Parliament will become vacant, right? Where is it given? Is it given in the Constitution, or is it given in the law? Is it given in the Representation of People's Act? Where is it given? That's the nuance that you have to observe here. The nuances, when it comes to double membership between Parliament and State Legislature, who will make provisions regarding that? The power is in the hands of President. President shall make rules for that purpose. And has the Indian President made any such rules? Yes. In 1950, the President of India has made what is called as the Prohibition of Simultaneous Membership Rules of 1950. It's as per Article 101 Clause 2. The power has been given in the hands of President to regulate double membership when it comes to Parliament and State Legislature, right? As a result of which these rules have been made, and the rule is very, very clear. There is a period of 14 days within which you can exercise your choice of where you would want to occupy. If not, your seat in Parliament shall be declared vacant and you will be considered to be a member of State Legislature. It's very simple, right? So let me recap it again. Article 101 talks about the different vacancies that arises, and one way of how vacancy arises is because of double membership. So 101 Clause 1 as well as Clause 2, both of these provide two different contexts. Clause 1 is a context of double membership within the Parliament. Clause 2 is a context of double membership between Parliament and State Legislatures. In both these events, what is supposed to happen? Who regulates what? So when it comes to the first context, It's the Parliament which can make law regulating it. So we have RPA 1951, Section 69, Section 70 regulates double membership between the Houses of Parliament. When it comes to the second context, it is the President who can make rules regulating it. So the President has made simultaneous membership prohibition rules of 1950 regulating what is to happen. Alright. So I hope you are clear about this. Now let's move on to the next aspect, which is about how vacancy arises because of disqualifications. Right. So let's have a look at that. Article 102 talks about different grounds of disqualification. Right. Without going too deep into each one of these grounds, let me tell you what is the specific nuance that you have to know here. See, these are things that all of us will be aware of. When you have gone insane or you become completely insolvent. So these are all some grounds on which you can be disqualified, right? Apart from that, I would want your attention to be focused on three different other grounds. So 102 clause 1 subclause A, right? It talks about disqualification on grounds of what is called as holding office of profit. So this is one of the ground, right? Here you have another big ground, which is Parliament may make laws and the laws can provide for disqualification. I'll give an example for that. The example in this instance would be Representation of People's Act of 1951, right? And then a third big ground here of disqualification is disqualification under 10th schedule, basically, which is called as anti-defection law, right? These are some really serious grounds of disqualification, right? You have to know that only when it comes to disqualification under the 10th schedule, which is basically because of defection, the disqualifying authority would be Speaker, right? For all other grounds of disqualification, the disqualifying authority would be the President. Why? Because the very next article to this, Article 103, right? There you have it very clearly mentioned that the disqualifying authority for all these purposes would be the President and his decision shall be final. Okay. For if a person is holding office of profit, or if he has gone insane, or if he has become bankrupt completely, right, or if he has voluntarily given up Indian citizenship, in all these grounds the only disqualifying authority is President, right? Now coming to this condition here, if he is so disqualified by under any law made by Parliament, I'll tell you what is the provision of RPA 1951. In section 8 of RPA 1951, it says that if you are convicted for serious offences, right, let's say I have committed a murder, as a result of which I have now been convicted by the court, I have been given, let's say, 12 years of imprisonment. So for this entire 12 years I am disqualified, I cannot contest elections, and even after this 12 years, for a further period of another 6 more years, I can be disqualified. So where is it all given? It's all given in RPA 1951, and it is in the same Act of 1951 RPA. There is a section which says that who shall be the authority who will be disqualifying, and it says that it will be the President, right? So basically, as a result of which, for all other disqualifications except for defection, the concerned authority is going to be the President of India. Alright. So that is also something that you should actually remember. Okay. So this is one specific aspect of it. Alright. And you should know that when it comes to disqualification on grounds of holding office of profit, what does the Constitution say? The Constitution says whether an office. First, let me give you a very brief idea about this idea behind disqualification on holding office of profit. What is it? What is the principle of parliamentary form of government? It is the principle where executive is held accountable by the legislature, right? So as a member of parliament, as a MP of Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha, my work is to ensure that the government, Modi ji's government, is held accountable. How? I have to ask very tough questions against the government. I have to pass no confidence motion against the government, right? That's the way how legislature holds the executive accountable, right? So as a MP, let's say I am a elected MP of Lok Sabha, right? Do I enjoy any perks and privileges? Very, very minimal. Probably I'll get a free accommodation somewhere in Delhi, Okay, it will be MP's apartments, MP flats are available. So I can probably get a 3 BHK apartment. I don't have any security guard with me. I don't have a free vehicle. Right? Probably I'll get airplane passes from my constituency to the parliament. That's all. Right? No great privileges as such. But if the executive wants, it can create a post. The post could be Chairman, National Film Bureau. Right? And for this post, it can, by favor, it can appoint any person as a chairperson. Right? So Supreme Court has given a clear idea about what all would constitute an office of profit. Okay, if the entry to these posts is through a competitive examination, then it is not called as an office of profit. Right? You have to write an exam and then you have to get in. It means there is no favor. It's an objective process. But that's not the way how a chairperson of National Film Board is going to be appointed. He is simply going to be appointed by the favoritism of the government. Right? So and it carries a lot of financial benefits. I draw a monthly salary, I get Innova car for commute, I get 2 Z category gunman with me all the time. Right? And so many such privileges, and now and then I am sent abroad to learn from Hollywood as to film production and all of that. Right? So much financial benefits I enjoy. So if these are the conditions, it is clearly an office of profit. Right? Basically the entry is not through a competitive route, it is simply through favoritism. Second, the post carries a lot of financial advantages, as a result of which, let's say this is a post which is very, very lucrative for me. I feel that I don't want to continue simply as an MP. As an MP, I don't enjoy any privileges. But if I can be in the good books of the government can actually appoint me to these posts. Right? Now I enjoy a lot of privilege. Wherever I go, I have a car with a siren, with a beacon at the top, and I have a gunman with gun always following me. It makes me look great in the society. Right? So I am more attracted towards this office. Correct? So don't you think this will create a conflict of interest with my role as a member of parliament? Why? As a member of parliament, I have to ask tough questions at the executive. I have to move no confidence motion, throwing the executive out of power. But if the executive is thrown out of power, then my post will also be thrown out. If the next government comes, probably I will not even get this post. So what will I do? I will not ask such questions at the executive. Basically, me holding this particular office conflicts with my role as a member of parliament. So that is the reason why, by holding certain offices, I should not be allowed to continue as member of parliament, and that's why we have this provision here. But which all offices would be considered as an office of profit? For that, let the parliament give a list of what all offices will not come under office of profit. So everything other than those offices is construed as office of profit. That is why we have an act made by the parliament. All of these are given in Article 102. Right? So let me recap it for you. Article 102 talks about disqualifications on a lot of grounds, and one of the ground is the disqualification if, as a member of parliament, if you hold certain offices, because those offices accompanies with a lot of profit, a lot of perks, privileges. Right? But at the same time, the parliament can also exempt certain offices. It can say that these offices are not considered as office of profit. Right? So that's why we have Parliament Prevention of Disqualification Act. Right? And we have certain offices not to disqualify. We have certain positions here. As a MP, you can occupy any of these positions. For example, leader of opposition in parliament, or chairman, National Commission for Scheduled Castes. So such kind of offices also accompany with certain benefits, but they are so important offices that a member should not be prevented from occupying those posts. Right? As a member of National Commission for Scheduled Caste, right, I have a real important responsibility to perform. I could be an MP. Right? Let's assume that there is an MP in Lok Sabha who is a champion for rights of scheduled caste persons. Don't you think that kind of an MP is who is best suitable to occupy the post of Chairman, National Commission for Scheduled Caste? So that's why we cannot allow this office to become a ground office disqualification. Whereas if the same MP is now interested to become chairman of National Film Board, that's not such a great office. So that is why such officers should be allowed to become a ground for disqualification. So I hope you are able to understand the logic here, right? So the Parliament has made a law excluding certain officers from becoming a ground of disqualification under the category of office of profit. That's why we have this act, right? So in a nutshell, if I were to summarize, I'll tell you 102 talks about disqualifications for membership in Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha on certain grounds. One of the ground is simply because you hold an office of profit. And who will decide? It's the president who will take a call, and he will say, yes, this is an office of profit, you have been appointed to that post, and now I'll disqualify you, right? A second big important reason is Representation of People's Act. If Parliament has made any other law providing for similar grounds of disqualification, you stand a chance of being disqualified. And third important ground would be disqualification under grounds of defection, in which Speaker is the competent authority for disqualification. Alright. So this is Article 102, which talks about the different disqualifications. Alright. So we'll move on to the next article. So now coming to the last point of our discussion, we'll take up a specific article on Article 118. Which talks about the power to make different rules regarding the procedure to be followed in the houses, right? So 118 is very clear. It says Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, they'll make their own rules. That's why we today have separate rules of procedure for Lok Sabha, separate rules of procedure for Rajya Sabha. Fine. What about joint sitting? And we know when a joint sitting happens. A joint sitting happens when in the passage of ordinary bills, when there is a deadlock between Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. When one house accepts a bill, other house does not accept a bill, it means there is a deadlock. Deadlock has to be resolved. And how do you resolve? By holding a joint sitting, right? So you would have definitely read from your Lakshmikant that in a joint sitting, who is going to preside over a joint sitting? It's going to be the Speaker. But let's say a Speaker is unavailable, he is absent. In that case, who is going to be the presiding officer? It's going to be the Deputy Speaker. If he is also not available, it's going to be not the chairman, it's going to be the deputy chairman of Rajya Sabha, right? So these are certain rules that have been made. My question is, who has made these rules? Is it as a result of rules of procedure made in Lok Sabha, or is it as a result of rules of procedure made in Rajya Sabha? Who? Correct? That's the point of discussion in 118. There is clause 3 which clearly says that when it comes to joint sitting, the power to make rules regarding it lies in the hands of President, right? So this is the rules that President has actually made. The President has made these rules after consultation with the Chairman of the Council and the Speaker of the House of People in exercise of the powers conferred by clause 3 of Article 118 of the Constitution of India. So this was actually made in the year 1952, after the Parliament, after Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha were all formed. So the President has used his powers under Article 118. So it's the President who has discussed with the Speaker and the Chairman. He has come up with these rules regarding joint sitting, right? So this is another important nuance, right? Because we often tend to assume that joint sitting, okay, either of the House of Parliament should have made their procedure. No. In this case, when it comes to joint sitting, it is the President who has made the rules regarding joint sitting. Who will be the presiding officer, as I rightly pointed out to you now, right? Chairman is not even a part of joint sitting. Okay, all this is as per the rules made by the President. Okay, so this is the important nuance that you should actually note down, remember in your mind, right? So if you have been watching the lecture till this point, so this is the assignment. In the comment section, you can simply drop a message, right? So that should be the answer for this question. The question is, as per the rules made by the President regarding joint sitting, who's the authority who can call and who can fix a date and time and who can call for a joint sitting, right? So that's the assignment, and with this we are done with this lecture, right? So these are all some of the nuances which I felt really deserves your attention, right? In addition to that, there are a few more nuances as well with respect to different bills, money bills, appropriation bills, all of that, which has also been asked in the previous years in prelims. But many of those questions have been already asked as previous year's questions. So that's why I haven't focused on those aspects. Maybe in the upcoming session, we will take up all critical areas of rules of procedure of Lok Sabha, right? Even there are certain areas where your gaze must actually fall upon. So that will be the agenda of the upcoming session, right? So I hope the session was useful to you. So see you in the next lecture. Thank you.